Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Time is priceless and precious. We want to use every single minute of it. Having this enormous privilege and joy of being with Martin Luther King III. I have only one statement to make in presenting him. And that's to say that I did not have the exceptional honor of knowing his father. But I did have the almost indescribable honor and joy of knowing Coretta Scott King. So I just want to testify in presenting Martin Luther King III that apple don't fall far from the tree.
Yeah.
And this is Miss Gold, Jennifer Gold, who does the kind of work that somebody's got to do in being an assistant to Mr. King.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Let me thank God for the opportunity to have this opportunity to engage in Tiny Bit. And I was pleasantly surprised when I arrived today, when I was looking at some of the magazines, and I saw a cover story on Dr. Cole. I lit up. Had no idea she was here. Because in talking to Michael and others on your team, for some reason, we didn't necessarily ask those things. We all know she is an extraordinary Jew and legendary in many ways, and was a very, as she said, a very dear friend of my mom's. My aunt worked for her for a number of years as a professor at Spelman when she was president of Spelman. And so I've admired her forever. And certainly the tremendous leadership that she's provided, not just in the academic arena, but certainly in the academic arena. If you asked any number of students, graduates at Spelman and Bennett, they will have to talk about her profound leadership at their institutions for higher learning. We have just observed the Martin Luther King holiday, the 33rd federal holiday. Dad would have been 90 on last Tuesday, January 15th. Kind of hard to imagine in one sense, because he did not live to reach the age of 40. Was killed at 39. And I had a distinct honor of doing brief remarks on Sunday at the National Cathedral. You probably don't know this, but on March 31st of 1968, just 4 days before Dad was killed, he preached his last sermon at the National Cathedral, titled The Other America. Ironically, the other America still exists. I won't go into his message because I wouldn't do it justice, but I will say that we all know we're living in a very challenging time in a nation that has so much to offer to the world, but current leadership has not yet realized the value of diversity. So I'm so honored to be at Cook Ross today because of diversity, inclusion, and many other things that you represent. I thank you for giving me the opportunity just to share a few perspectives and really to get your input. Because there are many days that we feel unfulfilled when we see some of the behavior that exists. Just a couple of days ago, protests were occurring in the city on Saturday, the Women's March, and then an indigenous persons community march. Some would say Native Americans, some would say Indians, some would say First Nations people. And there was a confrontation with some young students from a Catholic school in Kentucky, I believe. And there was a lot going on, so there's more to it than what we totally know. But I have some very strong views. I'll say politically, Make America Great Again is good. From a marketing perspective, it's a heck of a statement because most of us don't even know what Hillary Clinton's tagline was. Some of us do, but many of us do not. And I'm not criticizing her. I'm just saying that Make America Great Again doesn't represent the same thing to everybody. Because I'm not sure when it happened. I've seen spurts of greatness now. I'm not suggesting that. We're a great nation. But again, we've had great periods in our history from day one. But I don't quite understand the again notion. So one of the things I said yesterday, because we seem to have a lot of hostility in our nation, is love, not hate, will make America great. And so I feel like my father and mother throughout their lives demonstrated the power of love, the power of forgiveness, and the power of dialogue. Dad taught us how to disagree without being disagreeable. And we could use that right about now. Because it's all right to have different points of view. But how do we create civility? How do we create respect? I'm not asking that because I need to know, but I mean, I'm saying that's what we need to be of, creating a level of respect. Because that's where we must start if we're ever going to move forward. Now, I'd go so far to say that humankind, as my father said and mother, if we do not learn nonviolence, we will face non-existence. That's very serious right now. It's a very frightening proposition because things are brewing so significantly. I'm sure many of us travel. I'm going home this afternoon. I hope somebody's there, but if they're not, check luggage, check stuff, so that we're all safe. But I understand. I mean, we have people who live on checks that are very little, no money right now. I don't understand why our Senate, and I say Senate because I'm sure the House, I believe, is prepared, is not courageous enough to override a veto. The president says he's not. How come the government is shut down? Is it really because of this wall? I don't know. I just know that that should not be a reason that human beings who work to serve us are not allowed to work because they're not getting paid. And it's wrong to demand that somebody work. It's almost like slavery. Think about that. I mean, we're looking like we're trying to keep slavery. Well, I'm the president, so you need to come to work because you're a public servant. We're going to resolve this, I'm sure. But it's beyond tragic that it's been 31 days, going into 32 days. Certainly was unnecessary. So, anyway, I won't spend a lot of time on that one subject because there's so many more. And what I found in my experience is by and large, Americans are incredible people. We have to find a way to tap into the goodness that exists. You may say, well, why would you say that? I'm sure you and Cook Ross know this. But every time there's a crisis, anywhere in the world, whether there's a tsunami, whether there's a hurricane, tornado, there's an earthquake, Americans come ready to help. And when they come, some of them may not be able to go, so they have resources, discretionary funds. They'll just send those funds. But some will physically go. And they don't ask you, well, what color are you? What's your sexual orientation? Or what? They just come to help. Best of America we see when there's severe crisis. I wish that we could operate like we operate in crisis more. I'm not suggesting we need to stay in crisis now, because God did not design, in my judgment, the human body to be in fight or flight all the time. Although there are many in our communities who live in a fight and flight mode every day of their lives. But what I am saying is the way that we conduct ourselves when people truly need help because of a natural disaster or catastrophe, Americans come running. That's the heart of who we are. I'll give this one example of the goodness in people. I was, many years ago, probably over 30, driving in a community in Georgia on a road, and actually I had people with me, so I wasn't really concerned. But our car broke down because we had a flat. So we were in the process of changing the tire. I had on a tie and a coat, and my colleagues did as well. And this huge pickup truck comes out of nowhere. This is daylight, so I'm not concerned, because honestly, the guy who was with me happened to be a policeman, so he was not in a uniform, but he had a gun, so I wasn't concerned. But this huge pickup truck pulls up with a big Confederate flag on it. So automatically I'm thinking, oh my God, what's going to happen? It's going to be a confrontation. I said, but I'm not concerned, really. Guy jumps out of the car. He's in jeans. And he says, how can I help? And he changed the tire. He wouldn't, because we were in suits, he wouldn't let us change the tire. And then I tried to give him something afterwards, and he wouldn't allow it. So my only point is, while I don't know what that flag meant, I knew what it meant to me, but I don't know what it meant to him. But regardless, he came to help. It's the best of humanity, because he saw someone distressed. So I don't know if we can approach every situation like that, but maybe we should not always prejudge. But we as a society always or often do. I was talking earlier about someone who many of you may not know, Dr. Charles King, who was not related to my family, but he was a psychologist and a minister, and he used to do sensitivity training. And Dr. Charles King would say, we all prejudice. Prejudice basically means to prejudge. But our prejudices become racism when we use them to harm others. So in his definition, I'm not going to debate it, but I'm just going to tell you what it was. Most black folk couldn't be racist. He had racist attitudes, because there was nothing then that most black folk could do that could universally impact all white people. You know, if we owned Bank of America, yes, we could have a policy, as banks do often redline in communities of color, or provide loan, or like Bank of America actually has foreclosed on more people of color than anybody recently. And some of us have challenged them to say, okay, if you say you have a universal policy, but your policy is impacting communities of color in a disproportionate way. So why is that? But I'm saying that, Dr. King's point was that yes, you can be racist and have racist views, but there's not something that you can do universally and affect all of society back then. Not here to debate it, just wanted to put it out there. Let me quickly finish these remarks, because again, there are certain questions and things. Maybe you have a question of me, hopefully I can answer it. I know I have some questions of you as an organization. Because the things that you are working on every day certainly are very important to me personally. And as one of those who is working on the promotion of a legacy of my parents. And I say one because there are three siblings, and then there's also, there are three of us left, and there also is a grandchild. And I'm gonna brag on my daughter a little bit. We all will brag on our children. We were very fortunate last year in March for our daughter to be able to present at the March for Our Lives. And we didn't know she was going to speak. And I want to give a little context. 2016, 2 years before the March for Our Lives, we went to the White House. And we'd been many times, but for some reason we'd never seen the bust of Dad in the White House, in the Oval Office that President Obama had put in the office. And by the way, it's still there. I'm not sure what it certainly the bearer of the White House now doesn't necessarily understand it, but at least it's there, so maybe every now and then it'll jump up. I'm here. But under President Obama, we visited, and we said to our daughter, who's named after my sister who passed, Yolanda Denise, her name is Yolanda Renee. So Yolanda, you need to come up with a question to ask the president. So this was 2016, February of 2016. So as we were visiting in the Oval Office, Yolanda said, Mr. President, what are you going to do about these guns? So, advanced to 2018, when the March for Our Lives took place, it was no accident that she was prepared to say what she said. Now, again, my wife and I did not tell her or give her her speech. All on her own, she prepared it. And she said essentially, my grandfather had a dream that his 4 little children would one day live in a world where they did not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. She said, I have a dream that enough is enough. And we must, this is something that I'm most proud of, we've got to create a gun-free world. Now think about that, because I respect the Second Amendment, because I'm regimented, regulated by society. So yes, we got to do better with guns, but people deserve the right to have them. She put out in the universe something far beyond where I, although I admire it, would have thought about it. A gun-free world. Now, nothing can happen until it's put out there. So we may say today, well, that's not going to happen. But it's out in the universe. It can happen. That's what I know and believe. So that's my moment of bragging. Forgive me, but I'm certainly proud of our daughter. We're so proud of her. Now, finally, Dad and Mom devoted their lives to the eradication of the triple evils of poverty, racism, Dad would say militarism, but I say militarism and violence. It is very evident that these triple evils are certainly still within our midst. It is very difficult to substantiate and justify living in a nation with an inordinate amount of wealth, even though 1% of the, 60% of the wealth is in the hands of 1% of the population. We have a multi-trillion-dollar economy. And every time I come here, or every time I drive through Atlanta at night and during the day, I just don't understand how we have the audacity to have people living in poverty. I'm not saying that we have to take care of all. There is a segment of the population that we must take care of. But it would feel and seem like we have enough capacity in America for everyone to have a decent home. A decent home could be just this little area here. It doesn't have to be a 10,000 square foot home. But a decent home in America. Decent health care. The best education. A decent job and justice. In America. And yet that does not exist yet for so many. And so, Dad talked about the eradication of poverty and Mom. He talked about the eradication of racism and Mom. And he talked about the eradication of violence and militarism We'll get there. We got a long way to go. But guess what? It only takes a few good women and men to make it happen. The things that he and his team did, and others, are beyond phenomenal. I don't know how they did some of the things they did. So my point is, if they could do it and make those contributions, then we can do it. And we know that the journey of 1,000 miles just begins with the first steps. So I keep talking about ending, and I'm going to. But I have to share this quote because it made an impact on my life. When I was probably 14, Mom took me to undergraduate institution, Antioch College in Yellow Springs, Ohio, which helped frame who she became. I must share with you that she was involved in peace, the peace movement, before she met Martin Luther King. He didn't bring her to the movement. They came together. They were reading the same kind of books. But she was actually way ahead of most people and most of us in our society. But at that college, there was a statue of the educator Horace Mann. And under that statue was an inscription. That inscription said, "Be ashamed to die until you've won a victory from your man." At 14 years old, I thought about that. I said, oh my gosh, that's huge. But then I began to break it down over the years. I said, you know, we can win victories in our neighborhood. We can win victories in our schools. We can win victories in our places of worship. Some of us will win victories in our city, some in our state, some in our nation, and some even in our world. All those words mean are be ashamed to die until you've done a little something to make the world in which we all must live a little better than it was when you arrived. Thank you. God bless you. Let's talk. So should I start or? So we've been thinking, and when Dr. Cole joined us when we were in the boardroom, and one of the questions that circulates in my mind is, we live in a nation, as all nations, where you have a head of state, and I travel all the time around the world. Oftentimes, I'm frankly embarrassed when I get to countries and they ask me what happened. And how did this happen in the United States of America, which always has been a nation that has promoted and created opportunity? And honestly, I don't have a good answer. I do have an answer, but I don't have a good answer. But my higher question is, you work on this diversity and inclusion globally. When you have to go and work in other nations around the world, who may have various levels of respect or non-respect for what is going on right now in the United States, which historically has been a nation with boundless opportunity, and still is, quite frankly. But I guess the question is, how do you address corporate cultures in relationship to diversity and inclusion, and as well as, obviously in various nations of the world, like Saudi Arabia, which seems to have women in a subservient capacity all the time. I mean, my wife and I were in another Arab country, Dubai, and while they treated us with tremendous respect, the security team would talk to her. She would speak to them, and they always defer to me. So that's a cultural thing. But I was so pleased to see that now women are able to drive. Incrementally, progress begins to be made. The world is changing, and you can't. That's why I say, no matter what's going on at home, the globe is turning. So it might temporarily look like we're going backward, but it's still moving forward. Getting back to my question, forgive me for being, I come out of a Baptist tradition. All my folks are preachers. I'm not. But I just want to understand, how do you navigate through those kind of challenges as an organization? Because the work that you're doing is so, so important for our nation and our world. And quite frankly, I believe that it would be wonderful if we had something like diversity, sensitivity, and human relations curriculums that were designed from kindergarten through high school. Doesn't mean you can't learn when you get to college, but if you've been programmed one way for all these years, it's a little bit more challenging, not impossible. So that's it. That's the essence of the question. Open for anyone to